you're the threat. Yeah.
Hello, good evening. The European Council finished its meeting a few minutes ago. Tonight I'm pleased to welcome on stage António Costa, the President of the European Council, and Madame Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, who will report on the outcomes of today's meeting. After that, we'll have the time to take some questions. Tonight, President Costa will speak in French, so make sure you have your headset at hand in case you need them. President Costa, you have the floor.
Bien, bonsoir. 2026, c'est l'année de la compétitivité européenne. Renforcer notre compétitivité, c'est essentiel. C'est essentiel pour renforcer la croissance économique, pour assurer la création d'emplois de qualité, pour protéger le pouvoir d'achat et renforcer l'autonomie stratégique de l'Europe. Aujourd'hui, dans l'actuel contexte géopolitique, une Europe forte est plus importante que jamais. Et c'est sur cette base que j'ai le plaisir de vous annoncer que les dirigeants européens ont aujourd'hui approuvé l'agenda Une Europe, un marché. Il s'agit d'un plan d'action ambitieuse, avec des calendriers clairement définis qu'on doit mettre en œuvre jusqu'à la fin de 2027 et la plupart cette année de 2026. Je ne peux pas vous dire toutes les mesures, mais vous pouvez les lire dans les conclusions. Mais tout d'abord, notre priorité, c'est de conclure le marché unique. On a l'objectif de, jusqu'à mars 2027, résoudre toutes les 10 terribles barrières au marché intérieur. Mais cette année, on va prendre des décisions, tout d'abord pour assurer la reconnaissance mutuelle des qualifications professionnelles, en ordre à assurer la mobilité des travailleurs en Europe. On va approuver jusqu'à la fin de l'année la proposition que la Commission vient de présenter de créer un régime unique, volontaire, pour toutes les sociétés que le veulent adopter pour travailler dans tout le marché intérieur. On doit adopter jusqu'à la fin d'année aussi des décisions, concrètes pour développer l'union du marché des capitales. Ça veut dire l'union des épargnes et des investissements, notamment sur la sécurisation, le régime supplémentaire des pensions et l'intégration du marché et de la supervision. On doit adopter jusqu'à la fin de l'année aussi les mesures pour développer le euro digital. Finalement, on va poursuivre notre agenda de simplification. Tout d'abord avec le compromis d'approuver jusqu'à la fin de l'année tous les paquets omnibus que la Commission a déjà présentés et en invitant la Commission à poursuivre son travail vers la simplification. Il est clair que les prix élevés de l'énergie constituent l'un des plus grands défis pour la compétitivité de l'Union européenne. La crise actuelle au Moyen-Orient et son impact sur l'approvisionnement énergétique mondial confirment que la voie à suivre est celle que nous avons choisie. Ça veut dire que nous devons devenir plus autonomes et nous appuyons sur nos propres sources d'énergie. La décarbonisation et les sources d'énergie locales reste la bonne voie à suivre pour limiter les dépendances dangereuses et réduire les prix de l'énergie à long terme. Mais nous devons également prendre des actions immédiates pour protéger nos citoyens et nos entreprises. À cet égard, la Commission présentera un ensemble de mesures temporaires et ciblées, d'une part, pour tenir compte des situations spécifiques des États membres, de l'exposition particulière de certains secteurs industriels de forte intensité énergétique, afin de contrer le risque de délocalisation et de protéger les emplois. Et d'autre part, nous devons faire face aux récentes flambées des prix des combustibles fossiles importés liés à la crise du Moyen-Orient. Lors de notre rencontre avec le secrétaire général des Nations Unies, António, nous avons souligné que l'Union européenne resterait un partenaire prévisible, fiable et crédible pour soutenir une ordre international basé sur les règles du droit international et du multilatéralisme. S'agissant de ces défis communs, nous avons accordé une attention particulière à l'Ukraine. Notre soutien à l'Ukraine reste indéfectible et nous continuons à travailler à une paix globale, juste et durable en Ukraine, fondée sur les principes de la Charte des Nations Unies et du droit international, notamment le droit à la souveraineté, à l'intégrité territoriale et au respect des frontières internationalement reconnues. Nous devons intensifier la pression sur la Russie afin d'affaiblir son économie de guerre et la pousser à négocier. Dans ce cadre, on a exprimé notre préoccupation pour la décision des États-Unis de relever partiellement l'extension déjà appliquée sur Russie. Concernant les développements en Iran et au Moyen-Orient, le Conseil européen continue d'appeler à la désescalade et à la retenue maximale, à la protection des civils et des infrastructures essentielles, notamment celles à la production de l'énergie. L'Union européenne se tient aux côtés du peuple libanais et de son gouvernement et demande le fin des hostilités. Je vous remercie.
Madam President.
Good evening. Let me start with the Middle East. The situation in the region is extremely serious. It is causing great instability, suffering, and growing risks far beyond the region itself. And this is why we need de-escalation and maximum restraint, the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure. And I want to say a word about our partners and friends in the Gulf and the broader region. We stand with them in solidarity and in friendship. The European Union is supporting them. And just this week, the Commission announced over 450 million euros in humanitarian assistance for the region. We also discussed the migration aspects of the crisis. So far, we have not seen migratory movements towards Europe, but we must be prepared. We will not let there be a repeat of 2015. We have learned the lessons of the past, and today we are better equipped. We have stronger external borders and stronger agencies. We have a solid legal framework, the Migration and Asylum Pact. We have strengthened our partnerships with the neighbours in the region, and most importantly, we are united. As Europeans, we know that when we act together, we are stronger. Cyprus has been directly impacted by this war more than any other member state, and we sent a clear, united signal. The security of Cyprus is the security of the European Union. I commend the President's handling of the situation and the Presidency, which continues to deliver. As President Christodoulides has said, there is normality and safety in Cyprus, and I'm very much looking forward to being there in April for the informal European Council. We also discussed energy. The war's most immediate impact on Europe is on energy. At present, the European Union's physical security of supply is secure. However, Europe is not immune to global price spikes, and as the conflict continues, energy prices continue to fluctuate. Just today, the gas price went up by 30% after attacks on Qatari gas infrastructure. These are reckless attacks on infrastructure and unarmed commercial vessels that raise costs and the question of future supply risks. So in order to minimize the impact, we must take action, and we've discussed this at the European Council. Very important is that the measures are temporary, tailored and targeted. And the logic is written down in a plan that I presented today. We have immediate relief where it's possible, We have structural changes where it's necessary, and we will act on all 4 components that determine the electricity prices. Let me look a bit deeper into that. The first component is, of course, the energy costs themselves, which are the largest share, mostly half of the price, roundabout on average in the European Union, 56%. Member States can already make use of state aid measures to compensate for the cost increases of the energy source, and we will further flexibilize state aid for this purpose. We also agreed to work closely with the Member States that develop national schemes to further mitigate the impact of fuel costs on electricity generation. The second component of the price is the grid charges, roundabout on average 18%. Here we will prepare a legal proposal to improve the productivity of the grid infrastructure and allow the Member States to reduce grid charges of energy-intensive industries. The third component of the prices are taxes and levies, roundabout on average in the European Union, 15%. Here the situation varies greatly between Member States. In some cases, electricity is taxed much more than gas, partially up to 15 times more, and this cannot be. So we will propose to lower tax rates on electricity and to make sure that electricity is taxed less than fossil fuels. The fourth and final component is carbon pricing. The emissions trading system is working. It has massively reduced gas consumption. Because of that, it has reduced our dependency on imports of fossil fuels, and it has reduced our vulnerability. It also has driven major investments in the energy transition, in the low-carbon energy sources like renewables and nuclear that are homegrown and give us independence. But we need to modernize it and make it more flexible, and therefore we are preparing 4 measures. The first is we will update the benchmarks for free allocations and take into account the concerns of industry. Second, we will increase the firepower of the Market Stability Reserve to reduce price volatility. And these measures will come in the next days. And then we look at medium-term measures. That's the third point. We are working on the ETS review, as you know. This includes, for example, a more realistic trajectory, free allowances for industries beyond 2035, and a level playing field for our maritime sector. Today, we have agreed to develop these together with Member States and stakeholders. Finally, it's also about investment in the clean technology and in the decarbonisation. Therefore, we will provide much-needed financial support for our industry. This is why I proposed, we call it an ETS investment booster. It will have a budget of around about 30 billion euros. It is financed by 400 million ETS allowances, and the aim is to finance projects for decarbonisation. The key points here are speed and solidarity. Speed means first come, first serve, and the moment a project is ready, we have to be ready too. Solidarity is the focus on lower-income member states, which will have guaranteed access to this important financial support. Of course, energy is just one element of Europe's competitiveness, and now we also discussed other topics. For example, simplification. I will not go into detail. I will just say one component was that we will soon introduce a simplicity by design approach for future rules so that we improve the governance and the development of legal text. Second, we are breathing new life into our single market. You know that the biggest hindering factor in the single market is the fragmentation in the single market, and that companies often face hurdles when they want to scale from the country where they are at home, to other member states in the European Union. This is why we have proposed the EU Inc. It makes it much easier, faster and cheaper for companies not only to start, but also to scale and do business across borders. We also tabled the Industrial Accelerator Act earlier this month. Here the aim is to speed up permitting to create lead markets for strategic technologies right here in Europe. And we will adapt our competition policy. As you know, we are urgently reviewing our merger guidelines. The draft will be presented in April because we think that global competition has changed and so must our rules. And finally, we will continue building the Savings and Investment Union, making Europe's savings finance for our business, financing our business. On the banking union, we had a brief exchange. Banks are crucial for our competitiveness agenda as one of the main funding sources for our companies. So we will come with the banking report earlier, already this summer, to better position and integrate our banking system. Now, what matters is to move fast. Building on today's discussion, the Commission will soon present its One Europe, One Market roadmap. I think you are familiar with it. The roadmap will set out key legislative measures with a very clear timeline, targets, milestone for delivery by the end of the year 2027. And this roadmap should be agreed by the Council, the European Parliament and the Commission, and we want to sign it and present it at the informal summit in Cyprus in, I think it's April. My final point is on Ukraine. Let me turn to the 90 billion euro support loan for Ukraine. A decision was taken by the European Council in December, and there was one condition, the condition that 3 countries would not participate in the loan. That condition has been fulfilled. So let us be clear about where we stand. The loan remains blocked because one leader is not honouring his word. But let me reiterate what I already said in Kyiv. We will deliver one way or the other. So yes, we have challenging tasks ahead of us, but today we have strengthened our resolve. It was a very good European Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now open the floor for questions. Tonight we have interpretation in German, English, French, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish and Dutch. So feel free to ask your questions in any of those languages. The first one goes to Euronews.
Hello, Jorge Liboreiro with Euronews. 3 months ago, you were in this room and you announced that the European Union had agreed to provide Ukraine with a 90 billion loan. We committed, we deliver, you said. Yet, 3 months later, the loan, as you said, is completely paralyzed by one leader, Viktor Orban, over a completely unrelated dispute regarding the Druzhba pipeline. You say the veto is unacceptable, but at the same time, it's been accepted because there are no consequences against Orban. You're even considering paying for the repair of Druzhba with European money. So how can you explain that Viktor Orban can hold hostage the entire decision-making process? And how can you explain that European money from European taxpayers will be used to fulfill his demands? Thank you.
Well, the European Council discussed and agreed by consensus 18th of December to give a 19 billion euro loan to Ukraine, backed by the headroom of the EU budget. Now, we need to deliver on this, and as the President said, by one way or other way, we will deliver on this. Today, of course, we didn't discuss what we have already discussed last December. But the leaders take the floor to clearly condemn the attitude from Viktor Orban, to remember that once a deal is a deal, and all the leaders need to honor their word. And nobody can blackmail the European Council, nobody can blackmail the European Union institutions, and we need to deliver on this. And we welcome the efforts and the commitment of Ukraine to repair the Druzhba pipeline destroyed by Russia. And we welcome the public commitment from President Zelensky to repair in the coming 6 weeks this Druzhba pipeline. The European Commission offered the technical support, the financial support to Ukraine to ensure that the Druzhba pipeline will be repaired. But we can take in account that it's not acting with good faith when you put a condition that neither the European Union nor their member states can ensure, because only Russia is willing to decide if they try again to destroy the Druzhba pipeline or to don't destroy again the Druzhba pipeline. Russia attacked 23 times the Druzhba pipeline. For the 23rd time, Ukraine will repair again, once again, this Druzhba pipeline. And of course, this is not responsibility of Ukraine. This is not responsibility of the European Union. This is not responsibility of the Commission, the European Council, any member state. And that's why it's completely unacceptable what Hungary is doing, and this behavior cannot be accepted by the leaders. And that's why the leaders were very clear today in the Council, condemning clearly the behavior of Hungary in this matter.
Okay, next question goes to Ansa.
Thank you. Valentina Brini from ANSA, Italian News Agency. Question for Madam President. In the conclusions, there is a reference to targeted measures on energy to ease energy costs on bills. So I was wondering if the Commission, in this context, can see in favor a decree proposed by the Italian government to ease the costs of energy on bills. And another question for Mr. President. Do you think that green targets are still something achievable also in view of the division among the 27, or there are too ambitious?
So, as I've said, because of the very different energy mix in different member states, you cannot have an approach that is one size fits all, but the approach has to be very targeted, tailored to the situation in the different member states, and temporary. And in this context, as you ask for the Italian situation, we are committed to work very closely with the Italian government on this Italian decree, according to the UCO conclusions guidance, as you have just cited. From Monday on, consultations will start, and we are positive to make progress to address the Italian specific problems in the short term. In the medium term, I also believe that the upcoming ETS review will address other specific issues that are important for Italy, such as the extension of free allowances for energy-intensive industries or the volatility of ETS prices. And today, I must say, was a day or a European Council meeting that was very positive for the emission trading system, because against the backdrop of the crisis, it was clear to see that we are vulnerable because we are dependent of the global fossil fuel prices volatility. And what we import of fossil fuels is driving the prices up because we have the merit order in the energy system. The emission trading system over around about 20 years now has decreased emissions while the economy has grown. But most importantly, it was a strong investment incentive in the clean technologies. And the clean technologies is the low-carbon energy sources like nuclear and renewables. And you can see on the map of the different member states with the different energy mix, the more you have renewables, the more you have nuclear, the lower the prices, because these energy sources are homegrown and are not volatile. The other way round is also true. The more you have gas as an energy source, the higher the prices and the higher the volatility.
What we experience after the Russian invasion of Ukraine and what we are now experiencing with this crisis in the Middle East, that we need to accelerate our energetic transition, because it's the only way to decrease our dependencies, to become more autonomous, more independent, more secure. And we need to invest in our energetic security. And for this, we need to increase the production of homegrown energy. We have a technological neutral approach, could be nuclear, could be renewables, but we need to increase our homegrown production. It's the only way to be independent and to have energetic security in Europe.
Okay, the last question goes to the Financial Times.
Financial Times, Henry Foy, thank you so much. Today, European gas prices closed up 15% higher and roughly a fifth of Qatari LNG production capacity was destroyed. President von der Leyen, you yourself said there are future supply risks. Given this now appears to be no longer a cost crisis but a supply crisis, can you tonight definitively rule out any delay to the full phase-out of Russian LNG imports, even if that meant energy curfews in Europe rather than importing more Russian gas? Thank you.
So we have our clear targets, and we're sticking to our targets. Very important was the discussion, and you just reiterated it, how important it is that we do the transformation in the energy sector to the clean, homegrown energy sources. This is for us extremely important. Therefore, all the incentives we have set with the emission trading system, I think today in the European Council it was impressive to see there was a clear majority clearly asking for the substance of the emission trading system. Also, you mentioned a few factors like being homegrown or preventing the volatility of prices, but also because the investment of the business case needs stability and predictability. So we are on track on the mid and the long term, and our goals are very clear.
Okay, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hold on.